Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Modern Health with Dr. Jane. Of course, I'm Dr. Jane. I'm a naturopathic doctor and natural fertility expert, and I help couples who have been struggling with infertility for over a year to help them understand the root cause of their fertility struggles and conceive naturally. Today, I want to talk to you guys about feeling stuck on your fertility journey. This is a really common frustration and question that I get through my DMs on Instagram. So I want to address it because of course, it's very frustrating. If your fertility journey can be very long, it can be exhausting mentally, emotionally, financially. And the worst thing that can happen is that you give up on your journey, or you feel that all your options have been taken away. And whether that's because you can no longer afford to go on with treatments, there is no more eggs to be retrieved, there is no more, just nothing left to be done. That is the absolute worst feeling. And I want to help you avoid it as much as we can. I think infertility can be such a cruel experience that we go through. And I really want to share some of the mistakes that my couples have made before they found me, before we started working together. So of course you can avoid those mistakes. And one of the first things that I really want to change and talk to you guys about is changing the language around infertility. How, if you are struggling with infertility, do you understand why you are struggling with infertility? What are the root causes? And how are you going about to overcome your fertility struggles? Are you fighting? Are you a warrior? Are you getting worse on your fertility journey? Or are you healing? And I think my couples, before they come to me, they either feel like paralyzed, so they're no longer doing anything because they're just so overwhelmed with the amount of information and they kind of just feel hopeless and stuck. Or they've gone so far down the rabbit hole and they've taken and they've done all of these things where they actually feel like they're a lot worse in their health than before they got started. So whether that's their menstrual cycle is non-existent, or it's really heavy, or it's really, a lot of PMS and really terrible. Maybe it's weight gain, maybe it's fatigue, maybe it's depression or anxiety, digestive issues. And I hate it when people just say, well, infertility is stressful and that's why I have these things. Infertility is stressful, but I don't think it's just the stress of the infertility that's causing all of the issues in our health. And when I say I don't think that's what it is, I know that's not what it is. Because when I meet with my clients and I go through their labs and I help them understand and their symptoms, and I help them understand what's going on, intuitively, we all know that pregnancy is a natural process. Ladies, if you're listening to this, you know that pregnancy is a natural process. And it is one of the reasons you feel so devastated and so broken every cycle that you don't get pregnant, because it feels like it's challenging your worth. And it's making you feel like, well, why is this happening to me? And of course, then we get into the habit of comparing ourselves to, well, this person doesn't have to do X, Y, and Z to get pregnant, and they're able to get pregnant. Why do I have to? And to be honest with you, I have no idea why you are going through infertility. I wish I could take that pain away, but I really can't. What I can do instead is show you a way out of it. And the way that we get out of infertility is healing and finding peace. And I'm not here to sit here and tell you that I can guarantee you if you do these things, you're going to have a baby. There is no guarantee when it comes to this space. But I think what's really important is for us as women to heal and to reconnect with our body and to learn how to trust it again. And there are so many components to that. It's not just taking some vitamins. It's not just switching your diet. It's not just starting to exercise, although those things are important. But I want to shed some light on, if you're feeling stuck, here's some different approaches. Here's some mistakes that you're likely making. And here's some things that you can do to help you attack, if you will, this infertility from a different angle. So you feel like you're still working towards your own personal health and well-being. And that is going to bring you closer to becoming pregnant naturally, as opposed to feeling like you're giving away all of that power and control by just taking medication, doing procedures, IUIs, IVFs, and hoping that that's the thing that works. Because I work with clients who really don't want to do IVF, and it's just something that feels really deeply wrong for them to do. And then I work with clients who have done IVF and have gone through the cycles and done all the egg retrievals and even maybe had a child through IVF. And now they're trying to figure out happened there? Like, why wasn't my body able to conceive naturally? Was it myself? Was it my partner? Was it both? And I'll tell you, the people who have gone through IVF, and maybe you even had a child and now you're looking into the second one, you still always wonder, why me? That question doesn't get resolved when you get pregnant through IVF. And when you get pregnant naturally and you understand how it happened and why, like the things that you needed to shift and who you needed to become and the evolutions that you needed to go through to be ready and to overcome infertility, that feels very empowering, because now you understand the process that you went through. And one of the things that I'll tell my clients is the people that are sitting in front of me today are not the same people that are going to get pregnant. And that means you're going to change. And I don't know what that evolution is going to look like yet. I have an idea. And I don't know how many different evolutions you're going to have to go through as an individual and as a couple. But I know that there is changes that need to be made. And the more that I work in this field, and obviously the more kind of clients that I have who are willing to share their journey, I'm inviting them on my podcast and sharing more case studies of people who've been told that they're infertile and they don't, they have 5% chance of conceiving. And we take them through a year of different evolutions, both things that they had to do physically in their environment and mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually, the evolutions that they had to make. And when they get pregnant, I tear up, obviously, when they announce, like we just cry on the next call, because we know that there's still so much more to the journey. We don't know if it's going to be a successful pregnancy or so on and so forth, but you're still so excited because for somebody who's been told that they can't do it, to then rewrite that whole script and to literally become a different person and to conceive is you repairing a relationship with your body that has been broken maybe since birth, right? Maybe and usually obviously not since birth because you don't have consciousness then, but as a kid, when you were told that it's normal to have this digestive issues and I don't really know what's wrong with you. And, let's take this medication and hope it goes away. And that actually is when that relationship with your body starts to form, is when you are a child. And it really depends on your parents and their ability to teach you and understand how the body works. And a lot of people have no idea. I'm not saying this to blame your parents, obviously, because, my parents were more natural, but they still didn't know a lot of stuff. And I had to take that responsibility and that ownership myself. But the patients that are struggling to conceive and that feel really broken and, really challenging their worth, that has been a part of them for a long time. Infertility is just really bringing that out for those people and in yourself, maybe right now as you're going through it. And I think it's a really good opportunity to change the language from I'm going to be a warrior and I'm going to do anything and I'm going to put my body through hell to get to the baby, where in reality, your body is the first place that the baby will grow. And so instead, can we change that language to I need to heal, I need to surrender, and I need to become something different than I am today in order to be able to experience a pregnancy, a healthy pregnancy, a child at birth, because I've had the good pregnancy and I've had the traumatic labor, and the experience coming into motherhood was very traumatic. It was a really big shock that I am still to this day recovering from and doing a lot of energetic work and a lot of mental and emotional work and physical to heal my body. So I want to help you guys not make those mistakes and really not leave anything on the table. Meaning, I don't want you to have any regret at the end of your fertility journey, because at the end of the day, if you're healing, if you're surrendering, if you're becoming somebody that you actually just want to become, there's going to be a lot of peace in that. And what I see with my clients is that actually is the thing that's blocking them from being able to get pregnant. And there's different stages of it. So there's different stages of knowing what is it that you need to work on right now. That's going to be different than the thing you need to work on a month from now or 2 months from now. Let's talk about what are the mistakes that you are making that are prevented from making you feeling like you're stuck in your fertility journey. So there's 3 big mistakes, and I'm going to use an analogy that I got from a mentor of mine. He uses it like a business analogy, but it actually works really well in fertility and in health. So Here's the analogy. If you know anything about working out on a deadlift is when you're literally, there's a bar on the ground and you pick it up from the ground to your hips. So it's literally picking it up from the ground and lifting it up to your hips. The deadlift requires grip strength. It requires your back to be strong, and it requires your legs to be strong. Now, if you go on to lift and your max deadlift is, let's say, 200 pounds, now your back can lift 300 pounds and your legs can lift 300 pounds, but your grip can only lift 200 pounds. Now, in order to increase your maximum reps that you can lift in the deadlift, would it make sense to work on your back, your legs, or your grip, knowing that information? So if you increase your strength of your legs and your back to 500 pounds, now they can lift, but your grip can still only hold on to 200 pounds, you're still only going to be able to deadlift 200 pounds, even though your back and your legs have gotten stronger. So how does this apply to fertility? Well, what I see a lot is when people are getting stuck in their fertility journey is that they're working on the wrong stuff. So you are working on increasing your back strength and your leg strength, where in reality, it's your grip that needs the work. And so the way that I want you to look at this is your health is not static, and therefore your fertility isn't static. And it doesn't actually it takes a long time to see big progress and big changes, but to see changes on a regular basis doesn't take that long. So if you aren't getting better every month, there is no changes that are happening every month, then you are missing something. Now, that better could be better energy, better digestion, better mood, aka it feels like things are getting a little bit worse, but maybe you're breaking out a little bit and then the skin is getting clear, but your sleep has improved, digestion, there's bloating, hair is not falling out as much, nails are getting stronger. If you are truly working on improving your health and your fertility, every month we need to be making shifts in the right direction. It doesn't take 3 months, it doesn't take 6 months, it doesn't take a year. Literally every month something should be shifting. And if it's not shifting, that means you're working on the wrong stuff. It's like you're not working on the grip, you're working on the legs, but that's not the thing that's going to improve your deadlift. When you go on to test your deadlift and you're only lifting 200 pounds again, guess what? You were working on the wrong stuff. So we need to see incremental changes every month. Otherwise, you're missing something. And I mean that because if you are working on it, right? So when people are in my program, we are meeting every 2 weeks because I'm changing my protocol every month because things are shifting every month. And sometimes they don't shift positively really quickly right away. But within the first couple of weeks, we notice changes. And sometimes you can't make the connection, but a lot of the times it's the changes are happening. And if they're not happening, then you missed it. So the second mistake that I see when you're feeling stuck in your fertility journey is you actually are not doing enough of the right stuff. So you are doing the right things, you're just not doing enough of it and you're cutting corners. This is when we get stuck in the infertility is unfair mindset. Well, this person doesn't have to stop drinking, or this person can eat out and not care, or this person doesn't have to prioritize their sleep. And as I don't know about other people, all I know is what it actually takes. And I think a lot of people grossly underestimate what it actually takes to overcome some serious infertility struggles. So if you've been struggling with infertility for over a year, the first thing that you need to admit to yourself is that there is something seriously wrong. And I know that that might feel really hurtful to your ego, but in reality, if you're not getting pregnant and you've been trying to get pregnant for a year, there's chances are you're not ovulating. Chances are that ovulation is really low, so that egg quality is poor, or the environment is wrong, aka nutrient deficiencies, and the lining of the uterus is either too thick or too thin, or there is severe issues with the sperm analysis. And maybe it's not even severe, but there's abnormalities enough that after a year of trying, you have not been able to conceive. It's hard to admit that. But if my patients waste that first year, and usually by the time my patients get to me, they've been struggling with infertility for 3, 4, 5 years. In the first couple of years, they've just wasted time because they got loose advice about, well, you should try to eat this, or you should try to take CoQ10, or you should try to do acupuncture. And although those things might be helpful, for somebody who isn't struggling with fertility for a long time, like to optimize the egg quality or relaxation. If you've been trying to conceive for over a year, you have a serious problem. And the sooner you actually admit that to yourself, like, I have cardiovascular disease, and that's not something I should be trying to figure out on my own, and I need help. The sooner you admit that to yourself, the more aggressive you are going to be about asking for help and advocating for yourself. Now, if you want to get pregnant naturally, you shouldn't go to the conventional doctor because they're just not, they don't have the stuff that you want. They have medications, they have procedures, IUIs and IVF. They do not have training in natural medicine, supplementation, diet, lifestyle, none of that stuff. So if you're struggling with fertility and you're feeling stuck, you might be not working on the right stuff, or you might be not doing enough of the right stuff. And this is for those of you who are like, well, I am drinking enough water, I am exercising. Like, why do I have to cut out gluten? Why do I have to? I don't know why, but you do. I don't know why that's in your stars. I don't know why you have the genetics that you do. But if you want to have a child, and if you truly want to have a child and give it all your, like, everything that you have, and from like, you know, a naturopathic doctor, a mother, and someone who's had a miscarriage, I like, do not give up on that journey. I promise you, there's a reason why you're fighting so much for it and why it's so painful and why it challenges you so much. But do not give up on this journey, and know that there's always more that you could be doing. And it's just about doing the right stuff. And it's not about cutting corners. Who do you want to become? And why do you really want to cut corners? Like, who are you cutting corners for here? Right? So if you're feeling stuck, you're not working on the right stuff, you're working on the wrong stuff, you're not doing enough of the right stuff. And the last mistake that I see is you aren't reevaluating and pivoting when you need to. So the first point that I made is, hey, if you're not getting better every month, you're missing something. If you are just taking the same protocol, supplement protocol, for 3 months, for 6 months, and then you're like, okay, I've noticed some changes, but now I'm not noticing anything. It's like, you did the deadlift, you worked on the grip, and then you got to 250 pounds and you were like, awesome. Now I have to keep hammering the grip so my grip can lift 500 pounds. But your back and your legs are now neglected and they're not keeping up with the grip. You have to learn to pivot based on what the body is telling you. And so we do that through tracking data. We also do that by looking at our lab numbers. But your body should be growing and changing and healing. One of the things that I'll draw out for my patients is like a staircase. The things that you need to, and at the bottom of the staircase is where they are now, and at the top of the staircase is where they want to be, having a healthy child, right? Sometimes it's 2 or 3, whatever that goal is for them. And so whatever that first step that they need to take in order to get closer to their goal is different than the 4th, the 5th, or the 10th, or the 20th step. And so I see a lot of people implementing things that should be 20 steps down the road, when in reality, they need to be implementing step number 1. And then vice versa, they're continuing to do step number 1, 2, and 3, and they're not looking ahead and saying, this is done. You're on to the next portion. So you have to reevaluate, because your body isn't static, our health isn't static, and therefore your fertility isn't static, and it's always growing and changing. And so what are some other aspects, right? If you, like, I always teach the foundation. So you have to eat well and digest your food. You have to sleep well. You have to have good hydration. And I'll be sharing a lot more about what I've been doing with my hydration, but it's like, there's so many layers to even each of those pieces. I know I'm just skimming through it, but there's like the foundational basic layers. And then there's like deeper layers of each piece of like what it truly means to be hydrated, or what it truly means to absorb and digest your food, and how to sleep well. Like, are you tracking that data? What does that look like? You need to learn how to move your body. Are you exercising? I had couples who are like, oh, I'm doing everything. It's like, are you exercising? No, I don't have time. You have to start doing it. Like, you just have to start doing it. It's not an excuse. And so that was a big piece for her to build some confidence, some strength, mitochondrial function, metabolism, all that jazz. And then there's, of course, the mental and emotional component. And then there's like the spiritual and soul component of your healing as well. Like, what do you feel stuck in, and what are you really sludging through right now? What is infertility really bringing up for you? What are the pain points that the infertility is bringing up. And usually there's a lot of family stuff that comes out. Usually there's a lot of loneliness and worthiness and, just like sad grief, anger, unprocessed anger that comes into bitterness and resentment that the infertility has brought out. It hasn't caused it, it's brought it out. Okay. So when it's there and we can work through it, then we can learn to really love and connect with our system, because the body literally doesn't do anything without a reason. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, I know what you're saying, Dr. Jane, but my case is different. I promise you it's not. I promise you that we're all human. And, you're probably a woman listening to this, which means you have a menstrual cycle and you are connected to your body through the cycle and to the moon with the cycle, and just the kind of greater awareness of why we're here on this planet, as opposed to, well, this person is getting pregnant, why can't I? Right? That's a very low level, if you will, high school comparing, pointing fingers versus like, what is this journey trying to teach me? Because I know deep down that pregnancy is a natural process. So if it's not happening, it's not that I'm broken and I'm cursed and I'm not meant to do this, but what do I really need to do? And who do I really need to become? And what are the evolutions that I need to go through, which are going to be painful, which are going to be difficult, which are going to be costly, but they're also going to bring you more peace. And I think that's the big difference between healing versus like just closing your eyes and putting yourself through whatever it takes, right? I have clients on both spectrums who like really don't want to go through any medical interventions, and clients who have gone through all the medical interventions, and that was really traumatizing as well. And so we're healing from that. So all I know is that healing is the way to get out of this, because healing allows you to have peace with your life. And there's just nothing that I can, like, there's just so much confidence and empowerment that comes with that. And I would still consider myself really new in the space. I've been a naturopath for almost 10 years, in the fertility space for over the last 3. And now that I have, one of the things that I'll be sharing with you guys is some of these really big cases. And I'm really grateful for my clients who are willing to share their journey and jump on podcasts. And, obviously once the pregnancy is good, and some wait until a little bit further down the road. But when they share their journeys, I guarantee you'll be like, oh yeah, that's me. Like, those are the things that I felt, and those are the experiences that I had. And when you're given something like a 5% chance of conceiving, it's, what is that number based on? What is that number based on? Is that number based on just some lab work in a guy that barely knows you? Or is that actual validation for anything? And so to me, there's always something that we can work on. And your fertility just needs to be your healing journey. If you feel like you're already healthy, there's layers. There's layers to our healing journey. We're like an onion, and there is the initial layers, and then there's much deeper layers. And especially as we get older and our consciousness develops more, we can accept deeper layers of healing, if you will. And I always bring in mental, emotional, and spiritual in, but there's also, of course, the physical component. Hey, if you have parasites, you got to cleanse parasites out. You just have to do it because they're depleting all of your nutrients. If you have heavy metals, you got to get those out. Like I said, there's so much emotional heaviness around it that we do have to deal with it, because the challenges are worth. And I think it's a combination of strengthening your body physically and then strengthening yourself mentally and emotionally to see where that journey will bring you. And like I said, the reason for me to share the cases is because they're all different in terms of what the evolution looks like for each couple. But I think there's a lot of similarities for what the couples go through. And I think it will really help you connect. So I already have a couple out in the podcast, but I'll be really leaning into that. So stay tuned, and I'll have it on YouTube so you can see lab work and stuff like that as well, to give you an idea of what it actually takes to heal. And I wish it was as simple as taking some gummies and peeing on a stick a couple times to figure out your ovulation. And it's just not. It's not that simple. There's lots to it. And I want to bring some realistic components to it so you guys don't give up, because that breaks my heart when you're giving up on your fertility journey, where in reality, it's like, it just feels like you're giving up on yourself. And that's a deep wound that will live with you for the rest of your life. And I encourage you to, whatever it is, like I've done energy clearing, I've done astrology work, I've done a lot of physical functional medicine and detoxification and mental emotional counseling. And I spend a lot of time and money on my health because that's what allows me to help my patients on a very deep level as well. And I encourage you to do the same. I encourage you to find practitioners who are going to stand by you and encourage you through this journey, because there's very few people who are going to understand you. And it's going to feel a lot like you're alone on this mountain climbing it. Sometimes you are. Sometimes you are, because you're climbing a mountain and you're evolving and you're going into a new phase of your life, and there's people who won't be able to come with you, not for any other reason that they just don't understand what you're going through. So make this journey about you. Make sure that you surround yourself with people who are going to support you, and whatever that looks like. You're just going to continue to heal. So if you're feeling stuck, just know that there is the next evolution, and maybe you just don't know where that is, and usually we need a little bit of help. But if you're not getting better and you're working on your health every month, like if things aren't changing, you're working on the wrong stuff. And then maybe you're cutting corners, and then maybe you're not pivoting and shifting enough. So those are the three main things that I see. So I hope you guys find this helpful. And there's just a last piece that I wanted to share. I shared this with my client and she found it really, really helpful. It gave her a little bit more grace and patience with herself. But I want you to imagine like you have a daughter, and that daughter is about however old you are, and she is going through infertility. She's going through this terrible experience that you are going through right now. So I want you to imagine your daughter going through this experience. And I just want you to think about, what would you say to your daughter as she's going through this terrible experience? What would you want her to know? How would you want to support her? What advice would you give her? And I want you to write that down, because there's a couple of analogies out there, and the advice that we give to other people is always better than the advice that we can give ourselves. And so if you can imagine that your advice you're giving to someone that you deeply care for, aka your child, what advice would you give her? And can you take some of that advice? It's like that future self-projection to help your soul, your spirit right now to go through some of the struggles that you are going through. And I bet you'd probably say to be a little bit kinder with yourself, to get some help, to stand up for yourself, to be patient, and to not give up. I hope you found this helpful. My client really found it helpful. And I do this with myself all the time when I feel stuck. I envision what my older self would say to my younger self right now, going through that experience, and it really helps. So if you're feeling stuck, it's okay. Just know that that's normal. Take a break, recalibrate, and see what you need to do as your next step. Is it more lab work you need to run? Is it a new practitioner you need to? Is there a new therapy that you need to try? What is it that you need to do? And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out on my Instagram. Just shoot me a DM. And if you are interested, my approach applies to you. I work with 30 couples at a time. I do still have some spots available. Go ahead and fill out that Maximize Your Fertility application process. And myself and my team will be in touch with you, and we'll see if I'm the right person to help. But that's it for now. Thanks so much for being here, you guys, and I'll see you next week.